So the more we researched and found, the more we realized that art therapy is a real solution to the PTSD problem.
You're listening to the 7 Echo Podcast, brought to you by 7 Eagle Group, the place where we highlight inspiring and interesting United States military veterans who have found a successful civilian career after trading in their uniforms.
All right. Hey, guys, it is Jordy and Nick from 7 Eagle Group. We are so excited today to have a really special guest on our show. This guy served as a combat medic in the Army in the 54th. He served in Ramadi. And when he got out, decided to start a veteran-focused project that is dealing with bringing awareness to PTSD. He's using a really creative way by reaching veterans through art and art therapy. His name of his organization is graffitiofwar.com. This is Jaeson Doc Parsons. He's out of Charlotte. We are so excited to have you here with us, and we can't thank you enough for taking a few minutes to tell your story, to share what you're doing with Graffiti of War, and hopefully we can help some veterans at the same time. So welcome aboard, Jaeson.
Well, thanks, Jordy and Nick. It's a pleasure to be here for sure.
Awesome. Do you mind, why don't we start out, just tell everyone a little bit about your story, Doc, how you, why you decided to join the Army, what are some of the big lessons you got out of serving, and how that sort of set you on this path?
Sure. So I kind of joined the Army late. I was 26 years old when I joined. I come from a long line of a military family. I have ancestors going all the way back to the Revolutionary War. My grandfather served in World War II. My other grandfather served in World War II. And then I have family, in Vietnam. And so it's always kind of been part of, my family heritage. But I started in the finance market, and I was working in foreign exchange, and then 9/11 happened. And I was in Chicago, but our main office was in New York. And we lost a lot of, friends and colleagues that day. And it just, it inspired me, I guess. Like I couldn't see myself working in the finance industry. I felt like I was making money on the backs of guys that were getting deployed. It was 2003. Immediately I wanted to join, but my wife was completely against it at the time. But after 2003, I felt the call to serve. So I quit my job. I signed up for the military. I wanted to be a combat medic. And, I went right to, basic training, AIT. And as soon as I got at AIT, within a month, I was downrange. And being a combat medic downrange, I still say, it was the best job in the Army. I loved it because you're not just their medic, you're their friend, you're their priest, you're their, father figure, you're everything to them. And I felt a real calling. It felt like I found my purpose. Like, this is what I wanted to do. And, some of the best friends that I still talk to now, I made down there in the sands of Ramadi. And I would have stayed in, but I got hurt, and I couldn't deploy anymore. And honestly, this is just for me, but if you take the combat out of combat medic, that's just not the job I wanted to do. So since I couldn't deploy anymore, I was medically discharged in 2009. But as soon as I was discharged, I just felt that hole. Like, I felt lost. I felt like, all my brothers were gone. And, there was just this huge hole, in addition to the fact that I had, PTSD from being downrange, and the job that I had to do down there, and the people that I lost. And, it was just something that, it was just really hard for me, and I struggled a lot with it. And I went right to the VA, obviously, and they told me, we'd love to see you every, couple weeks, but we just don't have the healthcare providers. Like, we just don't have the money, we don't have the staff. So the doctor said, you need to pick up a hobby or something, keep your mind busy so you're not just sitting around the house, you know, stewing about what happened over there until, you know, we can get you better, or, you know, whatever. And so I had come up with this book idea while I was downrange with my friends. There's all this artwork that's everywhere. It started as porta potties, right? So when you're a soldier and stuff, you go into the porta potties and stuff, and there's crazy stuff all over the walls. For whatever reason, soldiers, they love just drawing on stuff. And, you know, we started kidding back and forth, like, you know, some of that stuff should be in the Louvre or something. But then, you know, the more we thought about it, the more we realized that, you know, the artwork that's everywhere, on T-walls, on jersey barriers, on everywhere, there's just art all over the place. And some of it is really good. And so I always thought, you know, I should do something about that. And, you know, a lot of my platoon mates are like, Doc, you should do a book. So anyway, fast forward to 2009, I'm talking to the VA, and the book idea comes up. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try and see what I can come up with. I have, you know, a few images of the artwork down there, not too many, but I have a lot of friends that are still deployed and deploying. So I reached out to Maxim magazine. The reason I reached out to Maxim is because, for one, when you're in, you know, combat zones in the Middle East, you can't have any like pornography or anything. So Maxim magazine is like the, you know, gold standard of magazines. Yeah. Right. So, and everybody passes it around. So I knew if I needed to contact anybody downrange, if I've had an article in Maxim, everybody would see it. Yeah. So I reached, you know, I went online and I did some research, and I found, you know, a couple emails. So I sent an email, and this was on a Sunday afternoon. Within 2 hours, Ben Madden, who used to work for Maxim, he was their, I think he was their publisher or something, I can't remember. And he got back to me and said, I love this idea. You know, let's talk more about it this week. So we did, and we connected. They ended up doing, I think, like 2 or 3 articles. They put us on their website for a while. And that kind of just started everything, because I thought, well, if he's excited about that, then, you know, maybe other people will be. And that kind of just started the ball rolling. Unfortunately, it didn't get us a lot of images, not as much as we thought. So we created a website, we started a Facebook page, and this is in 2010. So Facebook's pretty new at this point. And we started getting more images in, but still not enough. So by 2011, we thought, you know what, let's raise some money and let's send me back downrange. So I think it was January of 2011, we started a Kickstarter page. And our goal was to raise, I think, 10 grand. And, you know, at the time, I'm like, there's no way we're going to raise $10,000, but let's try. I think by like maybe April, we had like $11,000. We had made it. And we did a Facebook contest to, you know, like people send in their resumes and stuff, because I needed somebody to go with me. I didn't want to go by myself, and I had no like camera experience, nor did I have like a $500 camera. So I needed somebody with a camera and some experience, and plus somebody that's, you know, either been downrange or been somewhere, you know, close to that before. So we ended up picking Andrea. She had a photography background. She had deployed already. And we went down there for a month and captured like 5,000 images from all over Iraq, all over Kuwait. And that really kind of generated all of the artwork. Now we have something, because, you know, this stuff isn't going to stay there forever. You know, it gets painted over. The sands of time in general just, you know, destroy it. So there was a real sense of urgency behind us wanting to get out there and capture all these images. And then when we got back, we got contacted by an art gallery, and they said, we want you, you know, if you could showcase the images that you've captured, because nobody's ever seen anything like this before. And that's what started basically the Graffiti of War, outside of just an idea into something physical.
That is really cool, Doc. So are all of the images that you have collected into the book so far, are those all from like Iraq, Kuwait, or have you gotten any images from like other conflicts like Afghanistan or Syria, or
so we've gotten some from Afghanistan. We have a lot from Afghanistan, and the Afghanistan collection that we have, obviously NATO was out there, right? So there was a lot more international artwork. So most of the international artwork that we have comes from Afghanistan. We have artwork from the Dutch army. We have artwork from the UK. We have artwork from, I think we have actually 2 like African pieces.
Oh, wow.
German artwork, all sorts of stuff. And then we actually got a few images that were sent to us from the Gulf War in the 90s. Unfortunately, because camera technology back then was so terrible, the images are just too grainy for us to showcase, you know?
Yeah, just like a bunch
so,
of like, go ahead. I was just gonna say like a bunch of Polaroids just like scanned in.
Exactly. I think they had probably taken like a disposable camera out there or something. So it's really terrible. But at the very least, we have it, you know.
Right.
What talk, Doc, a little bit about, you know, I know one of your missions is to help guys overcome or just, you know, live with PTSD and, you know, get through every day. How does Graffiti of War help in that effort?
So, as you know, I stated before, this all started with me struggling, you know, having my own struggle with PTSD. So I'm not an artist. I don't draw, I don't paint or anything, but my art is writing. So as I created this project and did more with it, I found that the symptoms of PTSD kind of were lessened a bit while I worked on the project. Maybe, you know, partially because I was outside of myself, but a lot of it had to do with all the writing that I did, the blogs and stuff, the writing I did for Maxim. And then, you know, we started doing more research on art therapy in general. And we found that arts therapy, you know, and whether that be, you know, drawing, painting, some people do drama or dance. In fact, Exit 12 Dance Company, we featured them at one of our shows, and they're a bunch of former Marines that use dance as their outlet for, you know, dealing with PTSD. So the more we researched and found, the more we realized that art therapy is a real solution to the PTSD problem. And so we started to promote not just, you know, hey, you know, PTSD is a problem, but here is a solution to that problem. Now, you're not going to get cured from PTSD. Clearly, that's something, you know, that stays with you, you know, probably for the rest of your life. We had a World War II veteran that spoke at one of our shows in New York in 2012. This is a guy that, you know, served and, you know, stormed the beaches at Normandy. He stood up and talked to, you know, a room full of 100 people and still broke down, you know, like 70 years later, 60 years later. And so when I saw that, I realized that PTSD isn't going to be cured, but it could be managed, and art therapy can manage it. So my personal story, you know, they've put me on a bunch of different drugs, whether it's Prozac or Effexor or whatever, and it never really worked. Either the side effects were too bad and I didn't want to take them, or I took them and nothing happened. And then the other solution is group therapy. Group therapy has its own issues. So, you know, some people just don't like talking to other people about their issues. That's just not who they are. You know, with the warrior ethos and what we have, you know, we're told to swallow this stuff. I mean, I remember being downrange and getting the death by PowerPoint before we returned home. And basically what they told us was, don't tell your wife about all this stuff. Don't be telling, you know, everybody about what happened over here. You know, take up that warrior inside you and deal with this. And so, you know, going through basic training and, you know, doing all the things, you know, trying to turn us into a warrior, and the, you know, cadences that you do, and, you know, what makes the green grass grow, blood, bright red blood, you know, they're trying to form us from a civilian into a warrior. Well, it's very difficult to undo all of that. And so group therapy is very difficult for some people, and myself included. On top of that, everybody has a different experience in deployment. So you have 11 Bravos like Nick, who are, I mean, they're the tip of the spear, man. That's what the Army is all about, is 11 Bravos. And then you have other people that are, you know, more support MOSs, right? So maybe they're clerks, or maybe they're finance, or whatever. Well, when you get say a finance clerk that to them, their deployment was hardcore to them. And then you have somebody say like Nick, or maybe even a special operator, their deployment is miles different than that finance clerk, but it doesn't change the fact that changed that person, and that person's dealing with either a mortar attack that really freaked them out, or maybe they saw their friend get killed. And so when you put different types of MOSs or different people that experience it different, all in the same group, some people don't want to share because they don't want to feel bad. They don't want to say, when somebody else is talking and they're, an Army Ranger and they're talking about their experience. And now after they've heard it, they're like, well, I'm not going to share mine because I'm nothing compared to them. And so it shuts it down. And now they're not going to share, and now they're not going to heal. Art therapy, on the other hand, they can deal with their personal issues in their own way and release it in their own way. And on top of that, soldiers are already doing this downrange, which is clear by what we've captured. There's thousands of pieces of art that guys and women are doing over there to deal with the stress of being in combat, and they're doing this organically. So if they're doing this organically down there, let's get them out here and do the same thing. So that's how it all kind of began, and how we kind of formed this into the Graffiti of War project.
Really like that. Last question. It's like a quick comment about your approach towards the therapy, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like after I got out of the military, like you said, you kind of shut down around other people. And by the time I deployed in 2014. By that point, the Army kind of moved away from that, like, oh, just suck it up and, embrace that inner soldier, talk about it. Like, it's okay to talk about it. But that was only at like the big Army level. So, you get death by PowerPoint from, your brigade commander about how, like, hey, talk to people, open up, let them in on your world. You go from that, and then at like, more lower levels, your first sergeants and your platoon sergeants, they're the ones saying like, "Oh, suck it up, do this." So your mommy and daddy tell you two different things. But it's interesting what you brought about how art therapy and how like each person's deployment is different. I think you were just saying, it doesn't change the fact that we're all irreversibly changed for the experience.
Sure.
And then how, because something I kind of had to learn, like for my own story, I'm a writer, like big fan, like I love to write fiction, like short stories, novels, all that. And it wasn't until fairly recently, actually, that I made that cognitive connection between the two, like, how much I write versus how I do on any given day or any given week. If I go a few days without writing, I start kind of getting like, I get anxious, I get antsy, that the high temper.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm able to sit down and create something, I feel better about it, about the situation, or even just about life in general. If there's nothing for me to be upset about, what it's like. You're
right,
kind of high strung, just expecting something bad to happen, even if everything's going great. But after I get like a good artistic burst out, even if I'm not consciously thinking about, Afghanistan or the military or survivor's guilt, what have you, it's still like infinitely better for my mental health in the long run. And what I really like about what you're doing with the Graffiti of War is, in a sense, it is group therapeutic. There is some group therapy too, because it's people from all over, as you were saying, like you have like international vets are sending in their artwork. And I'm sure not all of them are infantry or combat medic or, combat arms MOSs. But it's still that shared experience of war, no matter how we experienced it. And we all have that one, or with this book, at least everyone has that common core that they can kind of like gravitate towards, that being the art. I just wanted to comment on that. I think that's very cool. And I was just wondering, are
Well,
you in sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just wondering, are you in any contact with any of the artists themselves, like the people who like put these like spray paint and graffiti things on the HESCO barriers and all that, or is it just the pictures?
So okay. So there's some interesting stories here. So it's, for one, it's very difficult to find the people that actually created this stuff. However, the first show that we did, we actually found a guy that it was his unit that was pictured there, and his name was actually printed, because sometimes they'll list, like, the names of everybody in their unit. And so we gave it to him because it's like, this is yours. So, the thing that we had printed out on the, rigid installation or whatever, we gave it to him, and, he was very grateful. Then we did another show in DC, and he actually drew it. Like, it just so happened that he came to that event, and then he saw it, and he was like, I drew that. And I was like, it's yours. So we gave that to him. Then here in Charlotte, we had a show, and it was like almost the end of the first day. And a guy came with his family, and there was this, he was in the 101, and there was this, big mural that we had printed out and stuff. And that was his unit, and he deployed with them during that time. And so we gave that to him. So sometimes we find the people, but it's very rare. Now, we also showcase, artwork that is new and not from down there that people submit to us. The one behind my right shoulder is Jaeson. He's not a veteran, but he paints stuff for veterans. The one on my left shoulder is actually an Iraqi artist that sent us, I think, about 8 or 10 different canvas like originals rolled up in like a tube. They killed him shortly after he sent that to us. He was in Iraq. He used to do portraits for soldiers, do their portraits or whatever, and they would send it home. I guess when they found out about that, or maybe he had been working with the Americans, they executed him in Baghdad. So we don't sell any of those. We keep those kind of in memoriam of Mahmoud. But overall, going back to, do we ever find the artist? It's rare that we do. And we wish we found more, just because, they rarely ever sign the work that they do. And I think the bigger we get and the more press we get, and the, more people know about us, I think the more we'll get people saying, hey, I did that. And then we'll feature them. We're more than happy to showcase their artwork, because other than us, I really don't think, and nobody would ever see it other than the people that deployed and maybe saw it in passing. We did a kind of a book, like a pre-book before the real book that we're still trying to do. And we took it with us to the expedition in 2011. And this officer that was showing us around, she was kind of our public affairs officer that we were kind of attached to while we were visiting different bases. We gave it to her and had her, she was looking at it, looking through it. And then all of a sudden she stopped on a page and she started crying. And I was like, ma'am, are you okay? And she goes, this image right here that you took, this is in front of the phones that I used to call my daughter during my first deployment. And so it it created this huge amount of emotion in her, but it was, kind of a healing emotion too. And so there's so many facets to this project, and really this project has grown far bigger than I am. We have a few different partners, and, we're always, gaining more partners and stuff to try to, push this project along, because this project has never been about me. And I've tried really hard to not make it about me. I have my own demons and stuff, and, I only deployed once, I have a lot of survivor guilt or whatever. And I don't want this project to be about, Doc Parsons. This project should be about, all those guys that are out there. We dedicated the prototype book to my gunner who died. This project's about the guys that didn't come back, and the guys that came back that, that didn't really come back.
Right.
Yeah. Doc, well, I know COVID kicked you in the ass this year, like a lot of other people, and you had a lot of big plans. I know you were getting so much momentum with your shows last year in 2019. You had big plans for this year, and that threw a wrench in things. What's next for you guys? What's in the future that we can look forward to?
So as I said earlier, we did a show in Michigan. I wasn't at that show, and it was a kind of a more laid back show because of COVID. However, we connected with, it's called Artworks in Big Rapids in Michigan. And the show went on for 45 days, but she's a great connection to have. Her name is Heidi. And she's going to connect us with a few other people within that town. And we actually have a couple more shows that are going to be going on up there or in the northern part of Michigan area outside of Big Rapids, maybe even in Grand Rapids. Coming, I know one show is for Black History Month. We have this really great mural of Martin Luther King that we captured while we were down there. So we're going to submit that. We also have some Tuskegee Airmen murals that we have. So we're going to submit those to her. And then there's also a Memorial Day show that she's planning. And I'm hoping now that the vaccine is out, thank God, that maybe, by the summer that, the majority of people will be vaccinated, or at least half maybe. And then we can really start, kind of grinding our gears again, getting out there. So we still want to do another show here in Charlotte. We're starting to branch out a little bit. Our focus maybe for the end of next year is to maybe do a show in DC. As I said before, we connected with Veterans Bridge Home. We're hoping to do their gala again at the end of next year. At their gala, they had more 4-star and 3-star and generals in general, pardon the pun, that I've ever seen. Like, I got to meet Peter Pace. I know I'm missing a few. They had at least 3 4-star generals there. I got, and then I don't know, several dozen, 1-star, 2-star, and 3 stars.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to do that show again. And then, we're still working on the book. We're trying to get the book out there. We have a literary agent. We just are struggling to find a publisher right now, mostly because it's a photo book. So it's very expensive. So there's not much meat for them to take. The profit margin's a lot lower. And then, just trying to get as much press and social media as we can. The more we do things like this, with you, Jordy, and Nick, to get the word out there, the better. When I got your email, I was super excited. I'm so happy to do this. So that's, what to look for in 2021. And we're hoping it'll just keep getting bigger from here.
Well, Doc, I know I speak on behalf of Nick too. You are a friggin' impressive guy. And we are so grateful for this incredible work that you're doing, that your entrepreneurial spirit to do this, and how you're helping so many veterans, I feel. And I think you're just getting started. And I can't wait to see what you turn this Graffiti of War into. And it's an honor for us at Seven Eagle to help you, to promote this. We'd love to support you in any way we can. You always got a friend in us. And thank you so much again for taking time to be with us. Everyone who's listening, please check out graffitiesofwar.com. Go to his Facebook page too. He's very active there. If you search, you'll find him. If you have the ability, please donate to his cause and support this incredibly worthwhile effort. Thank you very much, Doc.
Thanks, Jordy and Nick. It was a pleasure being here. I really appreciate it.